I want to say thank you to everyone for being here. A quick background on myself. I spent the last 3 years of my life as a tax accountant and auditor. Prior to that, I was in school studying for my bachelor's degree in finance. About a year and a half into my time as an accountant, I began to realize that I didn't want to make accounting my full-time career, but I knew I would much rather spend my time building things that would be useful in the future. Around the same time, my eyes were open to cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology that makes cryptocurrency so unique. I had heard about crypto in the past, but really only because people were using it to either make a lot of money or lose a lot of money. But with my recent financial experience, I was able to look at crypto through a different lens. The more I learned, the more fascinated I became, and it became evident to me the cryptocurrency environment would play an important role in our future. And I knew that this environment would be an environment that I would love to be a part of. This is what ultimately convinced me to quit my job as an accountant and kick off my career in tech by enrolling in the Savvy Coders Full Stack Bootcamp. During the first week of class, it was explained to us that we would need to decide on a topic for our capstone projects. I immediately knew the topic that I wanted to choose. This is where my application, called Crypto Clarity, began. I set out to create a page for crypto newcomers to visit to get information about the basics of crypto, along with resources for people to use while beginning to invest in the crypto space. And now, before I show my application, my application, let me see. I want to go over my wireframes. Can everybody see my screen? Yep.
Yes.
So here are wireframes, and what the wireframes are is basically an initial mock-up of how you want your application to look. So this is the one that I created, and this was going to be the landing page. You will see once I show you my finished application that that there are a lot of differences. There's only a few things that made it from my wireframes to my final product, but one of those things was the Bitcoin price. So on the homepage of my final product, I will have the Bitcoin price. For future iterations of my application, I'm going to include additional cryptocurrencies. This one right here was going to be Ethereum, but that turned out to be just a little too much to include for the first iteration. Down here, I was going to choose to have a automatic text alert when the price moves, so that anybody that wanted to have an alert could just put their phone number down here and get an automated text or email. It turned out that was a little bit too ambitious for a first iteration as well, just because that type of API would require some funding. So if I ever get to a point where my application is bringing in revenue, then I will probably implement something like this. This dollar cost average calculator is something that did make it to my final product. And it's basically just a reference for people to use to begin investing. Dollar cost averaging is when you take a big lump sum of money and you decide a time horizon that you want to invest the money over, and you invest it in small intervals over this long period of time. And what that does is it basically spreads out your risk over this long period of time. I was going to include a text and email notification API down here as well, but as I was saying, that was just a little bit too much to include for this first iteration. The next page was going to be my merch page. I really only wanted to include something like this because I wanted to integrate some sort of payment system into my application. It turns out that that's difficult. It's something that I'm really looking forward to doing down the road. I don't think that I'm going to include merchandise, but I do think that I will include some way to buy cryptocurrency directly off of the website, and then maybe some way to pay in Bitcoin. So then for the third page that I have, this is the learn page, and this page did make it to the final product. It's kind of the goal of my website is to teach people about cryptocurrency. And this learn page kind of incorporates a little bit extra, a little bit more than just cryptocurrency. So I didn't include this breakdown of why it's important to invest. But the explanations about crypto, that didn't make it either, but that's something I will also include in a future iteration as well. Along with on-chain analytics, cryptocurrencies run on blockchain, and that makes it possible to analyze the transactions on the blockchain. So this on-chain analytics is a really important part of cryptocurrency, but that is something that did not make it into my current iteration, but I do have it on my list of to-dos for my future iterations. So onto my application. Here is the home page. Oh, a little slow. So here's my logo. I'm kind of proud of my logo. I've never felt like I was a design oriented person, but I think that this looks pretty good. It's simple and encapsulates the name. I wanted to make sure that I kept this application as simple as possible. I was doing my project planning and I noticed that a lot of other informational cryptocurrency websites kind of bombard you with information. There's almost too much. It can be intimidating and sometimes it can put people off immediately. So for this, I wanted newcomers to come in and not feel overwhelmed. I wanted this to be an appealing site that people can visit and not feel like they're being bombarded with information. So up top, our mission is to provide a one-stop shop for crypto newcomers wondering where to start in the cryptocurrency space. If you've ever asked yourself, what is cryptocurrency? Why does it matter? Where do I start? We hope to provide you with some clarity. And then here's just a little breakdown of how the navigation bar works up top. Pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to give an additional explanation. A little bit further down is my crypto API. So this is the real-time price of Bitcoin right now, and it is read based on the percentage change. So this is something that I'm pretty proud of in my code. I coded up a function that would change the color of the Bitcoin price if the price was up over a 24-hour period or down over a 24-hour period. So earlier today when I was looking, this was up and this number was green. This contact us form is made through FormSpree. So basically, I wanted to provide a place for any suggestions for any users that were using this application. So you just enter your email address, you enter your message, and you send it off, and it will go directly to my email inbox, and I will be able to read any suggestion that anybody has. This newsletter sign up was something that I was working on right up to the end, and it is not totally finished yet, but the idea is that you enter your email, you enter your name, and it sends this off to a MongoDB database. And then from that MongoDB database, I would be able to send emails and updates based on price changes, based on other things, along with this weekly newsletter. This is an API as well. This was just for fun. The temperature in St. Louis is extremely cold right now. Feels like 18. So here is the learn page of my application, which did make it across from the wireframes. So this page just has some basic information about cryptocurrency. And like I was saying earlier, I wanted to be sure I wasn't trying to overwhelm people with information. So this is kind of a last second change that I made, but I made these text boxes so that you could hover over them and then the information would pop up. Instead of opening this page and seeing just a bunch of text, I wanted it to be a little simpler than that and a little more approachable than that. So you can basically just hover over these 4 text boxes and they show you the information that's inside. And then down here, this is something small, but it's something I was really proud of as well, is this is a link to download the Bitcoin white paper. And the white paper is basically just an explanation of why Bitcoin is created. But this cool little link, the underline comes in one side and out the other side. And I thought that was kind of fun. It took me a while to do that, but it was just one of those extra. And if you click on the link, it takes you to the Bitcoin white paper, which is a little technical, but it's fun. It's only 9 pages, so it's readable. Not all of it makes sense the first time reading it, but I would recommend it if it's something you're interested in. Then over to my calculator page. So this calculator right here, I had a lot of fun with. I called it the Bitcoin Fomo calculator. And if you hover over the title, it gives you a little breakdown of what it is. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. You enter a US dollar amount and a date between today and September 2010. And if you find out how much that would be worth had you invested it in Bitcoin on that date. So we're going to pick a date. It's going to be not too early. Let's say December 2013. If you put $500 into Bitcoin when no one had heard about it. I mean, it was a little bit popular back then, but it was a lot less popular. So if you had invested $500 in Bitcoin sometime in December of 2013, you would have, and this is should be populating how much Bitcoin you would have. Oh, let's retry this really quick. So we go a little earlier or a little later. Let's try 2015, July of 2015. So if you had $500 of Bitcoin sometime in July of 2015, you would have 1.89 Bitcoin, and today that would be worth $78,000. So off of a $500 investment, that's a pretty decent return. This was obviously just for laughs, but I think when people see that that type of appreciation is possible, I think it can sometimes plant a seed and get people to look into something further. This is the capital gains tax rate calculator. And like I said in my intro, I've been doing tax returns for the past 3 years of my life. So I kind of have this lens that I look at things through that's a tax lens. And for my experience dealing with cryptocurrency exchanges where you can buy crypto and you can sell it, when you sell it for a gain, it's very rarely explained to you that you are going to owe taxes come tax time. And so I wanted to provide this to basically give people a ballpark idea of what the tax that they might owe would be based on a gain that they had. So all of these numbers are based on 2022's tax rates for single filers. So let's say you made $100,000. You purchased some cryptocurrency for $100 and you sold it for $1,100. And you held it for long term. This is when you hold an asset for over 1 year, it's considered a long-term capital gain and you get taxed at your long-term rate. So if I click calculate, your gain is $1,000. You put in 100 and you sold it at 1,100. Your estimated tax on this specific gain is $150. And that's calculated because of this long-term rate and the $100,000 tax bracket that this individual is at. They would be getting taxed 15% for their long-term capital gain rate. So 15% of $1,000 is just that 150. There's some additional information down here. Their tax bracket would be 24%. Their effective tax rate would be 17.9%. And the total tax that they would owe for 2022 would be somewhere around $18,075. This was my most difficult calculator that I coded up. But I ran it up against a few different calculators I found online for 2022's tax rates. And all of these numbers were pretty close, if not spot on. But I figured I'd also include a little disclaimer down here. It says nothing on crypto clarity constitutes investment or tax advice. The content provided is for informational purposes only. Just a little legal cover myself there. And this is the dollar cost average calculator. This is something that did make it from my wireframe over. So you choose a lump sum that you want to invest, you choose a time frame for the investment, and then you choose an interval for the investing. So let's say you decide you want to invest $5,000 in Bitcoin, but you don't want to put it all in on one day. So you say, you're going to put it in over the course of 365 days. And you want to do it every 2 weeks. You want to put money into Bitcoin. So you would need to invest $191 every 2 weeks for the next 365 days in order to have that $5,000 invested over the course of the year. Now, this is something I want to keep working on in future iterations. I want to include the automated text reminder so that somebody would be able to get a text message every 2 weeks and say, hey, you need to put in your $191 if you haven't already yet, because this is what you signed up for on the dollar cost average calculator. So I do want to, that about wraps it up for my application, but I did want to show you some code behind this Bitcoin price, and it's dropping pretty quickly. So this is a piece of code I was really proud of. And if I bring over my code for you. So here is the function that I created to have that color change from here to here. I called it green or red, and what it does is it takes in an amount, it takes in some number, whatever number I put into the function. And in this case, when I call the function down here, this is the number that's getting put into the function. And it highlights it up here as well. So this is the 24-hour change that's coming from my API. So basically, if this 24-hour change is below 0, then it's going to apply this BTC down styling to the Bitcoin price. If the change is above 0, if it's positive, it's going to assign the BTC up styling to the Bitcoin price. And that styling is over here on my CSS sheet. Pretty simple, but the BTC up styling is just green and the BTC down styling is red. So depending on that change, the price will change. And this seems like one of those things that's just a small thing. It should be simple, but it just took me so long to figure it out. I had some TAs helping me out on it, and it got to the point where we were kind of just throwing things at the wall and seeing what would stick. And eventually I went in and I refreshed my application, and the color was green, and it was an amazing feeling. And I throughout the course of the cohort, we ran into so many problems and so many solutions, and I came to the realization that coding is 95% problem solving, and it's such a good feeling when you spend all this time trying to figure out a solution to a problem that seems like it should be simple, and you finally get that solution. And I'm really looking forward for the rest of my coding career to running into those problems and running into those solutions as well, and having that great feeling as I continue to code. And that wraps up my presentation, and the floor is open for any questions that anyone might have.
Hi, Buck. This is Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Wonderful. I just wanted to jump in and congratulate you on a job well done. What it makes me remember is when I first met you and interviewed you, and you told me what your occupation was. So how would we not know that your capstone would be about numbers and Bitcoin? And it made me just think about what your occupation was. And so Bitcoin is something huge. A lot of people are doing it. You just gave us a gamut of information because so many people still don't know a whole lot about it. And so just to hear you really break that down and just talk about how you perhaps can transform your money into, you know, all of this is really cool. I have some friends that's doing it, and they've been, you know, pretty successful. You take some hits, of course, but they've been pretty successful. So, you know, I'm really super proud of you, and thanks for just staying the course. And super cool how you called out the TAs, and because the TAs are everything. And the amazing thing about the TAs are all of them have went through the class, right? And then they get to come back and support you in holistically in any way that you need it. So I know that you're gonna do well. I remember you just telling me that you were looking to do something different, and you really, really, in my opinion, you know, rocked it out. And thanks for just enlightening us on Bitcoin. I'm sure that had to be very tedious in some ways to, you know, write the code for that. But I know that it's going to be huge for people that are in this field to see something like that be rolled out.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, the TAs were amazing. Everyone in the cohort was amazing. The students, the teachers, the TAs, everyone was so helpful. And it was just, it was an awesome experience.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Does anybody else have a question for Buck? I just want to say it's a beautiful website. I love the graphite look to it. I think it's simple and clean, and I love it. So
thank you, Lori.
Does anybody else have anything for Buck?
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to say that I agree with you, Buck. That's a pretty good logo for a non-designer. So as a designer, I would say bravo to you.
Thank you.
You should be proud of it.
Appreciate that, Dan.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you very much, Buck. You can relax now. And we're going to move on to Kelby, Estes-Nelson, whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kelby Estes-Nelson, and above all else, I love to write. So I created my own line of greeting cards, kitty pink cards, during the pandemic. I maintained a volunteer newsletter, advertising, emails, and even Google Business. It was then that I thought about how helpful it would be to have full creative control over a website. I started a business, taking initiative each second, which is TIES for short, and that was to assist entrepreneurs with getting their business registered, marketing, and ethics and diversity training. I began marketing through social media platforms, and then that brought me back to the idea of the website, but with the afterthought of an application as well. I have been enrolled in Savvy Coder's Full Stack Web Development Bootcamp to learn how to build applications for businesses who need to market or have an e-commerce option. And since being enrolled, I have really been open up to a plethora of ideas in coding. So like Buck, I just want to start off with showing you guys my wireframes. So let's share the screen. Okay, there we go. Let me know when you guys can see it.
There we go.
Okay. So this is where I originally started. I had just a plain gray background. I had pink. I wanted to incorporate pink because it's kitty pink cards. I knew that I wanted my logo and my slogan up top. I knew for sure I needed a home page, a page to display the cards that I had created, and a cart for people to check out. And so the home page pretty much just consists of slight background on what inspired me and why I created the cards. At the bottom of the home page, you'll see I wanted to go with the categories of the card. So I have mental health, general, romantic, and custom cards. Because I have a mental health line, I wanted to have a line at the bottom to just let people to know where to go if they were in need of immediate help or assistance. And then at the bottom of every page, you were going to see the contact us that displayed the information to reach out. I did have the idea to incorporate the social media tags, so the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well in the footer. So the cards page was really just going to display the categories of the cards, the name or type of card, and then how much it was, as well as an add to cart option. I did shy away from having an actual cart, but I did replace that with a way that people could still go ahead and purchase. The bottom of the page would have an area for custom cards. So you would be able to fill out a form and submit information to create a custom card. And then this is the idea for what I wanted the cart to look like. And in the future, I may still do this, but right now I like the simplified version of the cart that I decided to go with. So we'll go ahead and jump into the website. So this is Kitty Pink Cards. One of the things I'm really proud about on this website is having the roses in the background. The main reason that I wanted to start Kitty Pink Cards is because I don't feel like people give roses to the people that they care about enough while they're still able to receive them. And I think the roses added a nice touch, and I like that they were pink because it went along the lines of the kitty pink. So on the home page, you still see the same type of explanation as to why I wanted to have kitty pink cards. You do see the API, so it does tell you what the weather feels like, and it is pretty cold today. I did keep the mental health, general, and romance. I just didn't format it in the talk bubble like you saw. And then you do have the option to follow us on Instagram. I like that the color changes to pink and it makes it a little bit bigger when you hover over it, or follow us on LinkedIn. If you click on the Instagram link, it will take you to our Instagram page. You'll be able to see all of the cards that we offer. Some of them that I did not include into the capstone with some of just like a fun little video type of card. So if you want to send a virtual card to a loved one, then you would be able to do it and it would look like this. If you clicked on the LinkedIn, then it would take you to my LinkedIn profile. It would still provide you with information about the cards and the business, but it will also talk to you a little bit about me being in the Savvy Coders program and how impactful that was for me. You see my Savvy Coders in the background. Okay, so back to the website. Okay, the second page is the About page. We actually had a homework project that we had to do a single page, and that page was just an informational page, and I chose to talk about my background in poetry and just provide some information about myself. And that actually did make it into a capstone. I thought it was helpful. I've been a poet for a long time. I've been writing since I was 7. And so I just wanted to give people who visited some background on why I chose this, where I came from. At the bottom, you'll see different links to poems. So if you click on those, it'll take you to YouTube pages and you can see me perform the poetry live. And while we're at this area, one thing that I'm reminded of is the struggle that I had with designing this website. I have always been a creative person, from honors art to poetry to dance, anything you could think of. And I struggled so much with designing everything on here. This was just a blank background at first, but I really like the crinkled paper look. I think it adds to the effect of everything that I'm doing. And as you can see, the footer still has all the information that I wanted to include. The bottom actually has this link on every page going up, takes you back to the top. I don't like having to scroll through a lot of pages, or up and down the page, so this helped out. The next page is books. This is actually a book that I wrote, and it just provides some information about the book. You can click the link below to purchase it. And then I have another book coming soon called Poetic Anxiety, so that will be posted and displayed here as well. And it'll be a link to order that one as well. Some future goals that I do have. I know a lot of creative people, other people who write, and I would love for them to be able to go through my site to post their books and get that recognition and have people shop here to get their books as well. So take a look at our cards. The first line that I have is the mental health line. This line, I did decide to move up right under mental health. I didn't want to wait too far down the page. I thought it was really important to put it there. I have a button that I created with a coupon. When you click on it, it tells you to use the code NEW for 10% off. I thought that was fun, especially if it's your first time on the page. And then the cards do tell you the name of the card, what category it's in, and how much they cost. In the future, one thing that I want to change is being able to hover over the card so you can see what the inside looks like. And that way I'm not taking up a lot of space with a lot of different images. So that's something that I do want to do, but for the sake of the capstone, I really do like how this page turned out. At the bottom, I still have the option to create a custom card. So you can tell us what your email is, the font type you want, the color, the occasion, and then you can send a message with it as well. And when you do that, I had a friend test it out. So this is just one of the messages that he sent over, but it just shows you that the form actually does work, and it is through FormSpree. I chose to do both of my forms through FormSpree instead of going through Mongo, mainly because I didn't have a backend as far as users for people to input their information or log in. And I thought it'd be helpful if somebody submitted information for a custom card for that information to pop up to me right away. What I did like about FormSpree and doing the cart page, and I just give you how to purchase and what you can put in the field. This form actually goes to a different email. So what I liked about that is if there was not, if I didn't work on this project alone, if I had someone working with me and someone else was over cards and someone else was over the cart, then I could separate it with the two different emails. So I really did appreciate that. And for this one, I had my TA Spencer test it out, and it is working as well. He actually did help me a lot as far as the forms went, so I do appreciate him for that. And then the last page I have is the facts page. So I started this by talking about how important it is to give people their flowers. Well, my mother was the first person to put a pen and paper in my hand and tell me to write. I was struggling with saying things that I thought might disappoint her. And she just gave me the pen and paper and said, baby, just write it down. Just write it down. There's nothing that you can't tell me, but if you're having a hard time with it, put it on paper. And I have never looked back. It is so much easier for me to communicate in writing sometimes, and so much better for me to fully express how I'm feeling. So I just wanted to give her her flowers. The same thing for my uncle. He was a bass player. He always encouraged me to evolve my writings, and he always wanted me to perform over his bass guitar on stage because he was in a band. I never got the chance to do that while he was still here, but that is something that I wish I did. And it helped kind of give me the push to think of a different thing to do besides just the poetry. My Uncle Philip as well. He has the same degree that I have. I have a background in business with the marketing option. He had the same. So we would always bounce ideas off of each other, especially when it came down to logos and presentation. And then the bottom of my page, it just says facts and facts. Basically, just if you wanted to remain safe from COVID, then you could have the card sent virtually, or you can have them mailed directly to the recipient. If you wanted a more personal touch, you can have the card delivered to yourself and then you can give it to that person. But we just want to let us help you be different than the rest and express you the best. So that is my actual capstone. I decided to use Trello for the way that I kept up. Trello is a process that you can use to visualize your work. Throughout the class, we did sprint planning together, and sprint was something that we did from Scrum. Sprint was very helpful early on. It helped us to stay focused on what we needed to do and how we wanted to complete our capstones. It helped us keep each other accountable. So I really like doing sprints, but then I'm also very visual. And if you could see behind my computer, there are sticky notes everywhere. So for me, Trello was a little bit more helpful to move everything over. I did really like us doing Agile and getting certified in Agile early on, because I think that that set up the mind frame to be able to work in teams and work in groups with each other. And I think the thing that I learned the most out of this capstone is just how to effectively work with a team of people. That's one thing that I do not see in a lot of organizations. And I've been in a few human resources down to entry level, and I don't see people work effectively in teams. But Agile sets you up to check on each other, see what you need help with. It sets you up to visualize what you're doing, not try to take on too much, but make sure you have realistic things to output. So I think that was a good way to start off our cohort to keep us focused on what we wanted to do. Some of my future goals, I want to format my forms in mobile view and really my website. Some things work in mobile view and some things still need work on, and I would like it to be able to be viewed on a mobile screen or a tablet, regardless of what you're looking on, and everything still be nice. I want to determine if I do add users and I do decide to use Mongo, what I want them to do on the site. As I told you guys, I wanted to add a hover feature so you see the inside of the card. I want to create a new category for traditions because I believe representation matters. And then I wanted to just make sure I had watermarks for the cards and maybe some code that prevented copy and paste so people aren't trying to take my card ideas. And just to pull up some of the code. Oh, this right here was another thing I really struggled with, was importing the pictures for the cards. I had an import code at first that was just not working. So I reached out to Cam, which was one of the TAs. She was super helpful in helping me figure out how to get all the cards on here and import them. And as you can see to the left, all the pictures show up. So as I was adding, if I didn't see the picture, I knew I was doing something wrong. But other than that, the actual design of everything, I learned that order really matters when you code. If you do something out of order, it can make the site crash, or it can make just something pull up and not everything pull up. So I really went back and did a lot of things to get this order correctly. I definitely want to give a classmate shout out to Julliette because she's so amazing in design. So she was able to do a session. We just sat down together one day and we were able to bounce ideas and, you know, figure out some things. So the paper that I was showing you guys in the background that I liked, that's actually right here. And it's just a background image that I put into the design sheet. But I am really, really proud of my capstone. It meant a lot to me. I am proud of the presentation of it. And I just want to thank you guys for listening. So the floor is open if you have any questions.
Julliette, I'm jumping in again. Hi there. I'm not saying Julliette. Kelby, congratulations. I remember when I first met you, you were working part-time and then you jumped in quickly. And while in the class, you received a full-time job and was still able to just, you know, do that work-life balance and staying the course. I thoroughly enjoyed your capstone. Mental health probably more now than ever is so prevalent, especially with us being in a pandemic and just with everything that's going on. And so is love. Now people still find love and romance through the pandemic, but when you look at mental health, it's huge, and it's something that oftentimes you don't hear a lot of people gravitate to. They actually shy away from. So to be able to send that greeting card, to be able to be it that it's virtual or that it's through mail, just let a person know, hey, just checking on you, just doing a wellness check, just want to let you know that you're okay. It's super awesome. And it's really cool to just see the collaboration of, you don't know who you're going to meet when you enter into this program, but you come in by yourself, but you leave with a whole family. So, when I just seen you talking about the coding piece and just making sure that you do things in order, otherwise it'll crash. I see Julliette shaking her head like, yeah. And I see some of your other classmates like, yeah, this is true. And then I hear you shout her out, just like thanking her for, supporting. And so it's really cool because you don't know who was going to come into your life. And now you got a whole support team. I heard you mention Cam and another TA. And those are people who also came through the program and didn't know who they were going to meet. But now they continue to meet more. And now you see a whole extended family that has come together collectively. So great job. We need greeting cards. We need to just have that access to things that are virtual, and just also being able to express ourselves through writing and different things like that. So very informative, and just want to commend you on the job well done.
Thank you.
Hey, Kelby, I was wondering, when you were using Trello, were you using it just for yourself, or were you using it for other people too? Was it just to keep yourself organized?
Yes, it was just for me. Instead of using the sprints and using Jira, I decided to use Trello because it was a better visual for me to move everything around.
Sure. Well, I just think that even using it for yourself is a great training, but I know that we've used Trello before for a group, and it really is a way for the entire team to stay organized too. So it was cool to see you using it.
Okay, great job, Kelby, as always. Okay, next up, we're going to do Joe Ranzetta. Whenever you're ready.
All righty. Yeah, thank you very much. Hello to everyone. My name is Joe Ranzetta, and I've really had a passion for technology from a young age. I remember being absolutely thrilled by my dad's early IBM computer decades ago when I was a little kid, and I built my first PC while I was in high school. My last job was at Bass Pro Shops in Springfield, where I worked for about 5 years. I worked at the corporate headquarters as a gift card processor and coordinator. I maintained and operated 2 Entrust MX6000 card issuance systems, and I worked independently with minimal supervision. I mastered the IBM AS400 application system, and I wrote a few Visual Basic scripts to assist with the workflow. In 2020, I decided to pursue a degree in computer science at Missouri State University, but I became homesick for St. Louis, where I grew up. When I returned, I was weighing my options of continuing my education and job seeking. That's when I found out about Savvy Coder's Full Stack Development Bootcamp. That posting was on Missouri's Apprentice Connect website, and I really thought it looked like a perfect fit for me. Since then, I've just about finished the program, and my capstone project has come a long way since its humble beginning. My website aims to help gardeners find plants well suited to their local climate. It's called Planters Pal. I've learned a lot so far about full stack development while working on this project, and I am very eager to learn more in the future. And without further ado, I will share my screen here. So first, I'll talk a little bit about Agile. We went over a lot of it during the beginning of the class, and it really helped lay a foundation and a mindset for everything that came afterwards. things move pretty quickly, and that's definitely a part of all the different agile processes and frameworks. Now, I did serve as a Scrum Master for the first 2 sprints, and then we switched off. We figured that was a fair way to do it, just so everybody got some, or as many people who wanted to got some experience with it. It really stood out to me as a very different sort of management style than I'm used to experiencing. You're really a servant leader. You're helping others to perform, to be the best they can, remove obstacles for them, and facilitate and guide meetings. Also, I had my first experience with a Jira board, which is an extremely helpful tool. I really cannot imagine building a project without it, or a similar tool that works like that. It's like a planner, but way better, basically. Transparency and communication were also 2 traits that stood out to me in the agile process. And I really appreciate those traits, and I think they go a long way towards helping agile function as it should. Now, here is my framework that I also made early on in the class for my website. I stuck reasonably close to it by the end of, by the time I was finished with my capstone. So this is the home page with everything, with the header and everything else. A picture, that's where the picture of the USA would go, and then all the different climate zones. And then here's an example I made of a climate zone page. This changed a bit more than the home page, but still not too much. So I will bring up my site here. So this is fully online. It's not being hosted locally. So everything that I'm showing you is Netlify is serving as the front end. The back end is hosted on MongoDB, and then I'm drawing a blank, but there's another service that's serving as the middleman to let them communicate. So I really like the font I found on Google's font. It's called a Permanent Marker, and it's basically the font I use for the whole website. But it was fun looking through all that. I did have a fun time making my logo here. It's kind of a bucket man, I mean, if you're working in your garden, it's definitely helpful to have a bucket, whether you're putting tools in it or water or any number of things. But I also edited it in a GIMP, which is kind of a free version of Photoshop. So that's another thing I sort of taught myself. I'd never used it before, so that was pretty fun. So the links here, they all work. This part is kind of brief here. The real meat and potatoes is the main splash page, pardon me. And here's the map I got from the USDA website. And that's where I got a lot of my information from our website. It's all open source, so didn't feel guilty appropriating it for my project here. And actually, their website it is very, very slow. So that's probably one of the things that my site is actually a little bit better than theirs. So one of the things I'm most proud of on my site is that users are able to enter their zip code to find their planting zone. So when you type a zip code in here, we'll just put in St. Louis zip code and submit. It does take a little bit of time for this bit to load. And I'd like to figure out how to speed that up in future iterations of my site. I feel like some of it is inevitable because it is pulling a lot of data from an API and then doing a few calculations based on that. But yeah, it returns your average annual minimum temperature is 0.3 degrees Fahrenheit. And with that information, we can say that, this zip code in St. Louis is just on the cusp of zone 7. So we can also see zone 7 up here. It's the light green area. So you can see things have changed a little bit. This map is based on data from 1976 to 2005, whereas this is calculating the most recent data. So this is, so yeah, that's that. So with that, we can click on this, and I entered different plants and put them in a table, and you can see their names, the minimum temperature that they can live at. So they're all 7 degrees. The minimum amount of frost-free days that the plant needs to live, min and max rainfall, drought tolerance, shade tolerance, and whether it has edible bits to it. So just a few traits to help gardeners narrow down what exactly is a good fit for them, basically. So it's a tool to help gardeners find plants that are well suited for their climate and that they like. And then at the bottom is kind of an explanation of climate zones in America. So when you enter your zip code and the box above, the site takes the past 30 yearly lows to calculate your average annual extreme minimum temperature, which is a good bit of information to know what plants you'll be able to grow locally. So this was probably my favorite bit to code, probably my most favorite part. And I can show you what the code actually looks like behind that. So it's calling an API here, weather.visualcrossing, and it's creating an empty space for that data. It's pulling I actually pulled 31 years instead of 30. And it basically adds them all up, averages them, and then it formats it in text down here. So your average annual minimum temperature is, that's the answer there, and then it gives it degrees in Fahrenheit. So yeah, it did take me some time to do that. It took, what I was surprised took me a bit of time to do is actually find an API that my website could communicate to that had the information that I needed for my site. So the Visual Crossing is the one I ended up picking. A lot of weather APIs, they don't have a very long history, but this one was a little bit different. And actually, it was kind of hard to find out that this API actually had the feature I wanted, because it's not even available in their main API in their query builder. I had to click on their legacy version, which has the feature click on that, which has the feature I wanted, which is historical data. So, because I really didn't want to make 365 API calls, times 30, because I felt like that would take even longer than it already takes to load that. So that was important to me. So lastly, I will show you insomnia. This is another way we can interact with, or this is how I can interact with with MongoDB, which is my repository of plants. All the information about plants is on there, and you can see the different variables reflected here: plant name, climate zone, temperature minimum, and all the other ones that I showed in that table there. So trumpet creeper, that's one that is currently not on the site. It's in climate zone 5. So we can check climate zone 5 and it's not there. Just to demonstrate how it works, I can post this and we just send it over. Here, couldn't connect to the server. Oh, I might need to have something open. Well, this is what it looks like, and it would edit normally. I think I needed to start server up. I won't do that right now, but basically this is what it looks like. And I can also get plants here. So this is what my database basically looks like on the back end. Just scrolling through all the different plants that are there. And then I'm also able to delete plants by ID. So when I do upload a plant to Insomnia, it creates a little ID for it, and that makes it a lot easier to delete something if I made a mistake entering it, or for whatever reason I would want to delete it. So that is the conclusion to my presentation, and yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who helped me get to this point. My fellow classmates, everybody that worked at Savvy Coders, the funders, everyone. I'd also like to give a shout out to my TA, Trey Allen. He gave me a lot of help, but not only that, he's just a real inspiration. He knows a lot about programming, mostly self-taught, and he has a passion for it too. He does a lot of side projects, and I'd like to, not only code as a profession, but do side projects for myself or friends, or potentially even clients once I feel comfortable enough with it. But that is everything. So thank you everyone for your time. And yeah, if anyone has any questions or comments.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Joe, was there any thought to maybe, which I know is probably crazy to think like to add all this, but to add like a link or photo? Because like, let's say I'm new, like, because I've done something similar, where I own a home, I don't have a green thumb, and I wanted to add plants and stuff. So to see what survived, but you like on ours, like there were like 12 or 13. So to like have a quick, because I think sometimes like me, I probably want something that like is going to fit my style or looks cute or whatever. So to me, it would seem like I would have to like write all those down, right? And then Google what they all look like, or if I'm going to even like the style, or if it's going to be my vibe. So was there ever any kind of thought into doing that? Again, I know that this is like a shorter term project, but or like a photo or a little like hover link or something that at least allows you to click really quick to be like, oh no, that's bright orange, that's not going to go with my black shutters, or you know what I mean. I don't know. So was that ever something you considered?
Yeah, at some point I would like the plants to be clickable. Right now it's just a table displaying their different traits and their name, because there are pictures available on USDA, and yeah, again, they're open source. I'd like to allow users to submit content too. So if somebody is growing a plant, that's on my list, it'd be great if they could submit what their own garden looks like, or what their own plant in the garden looks like. So there's lots of features I'd like to add down the road. I'd also like the tables for people to be able to click them and sort them. Like say you want to see the ones that are drought tolerant, maybe you live in a dry area, or there's a water shortage there, so you'd be able to see like all the plants that are drought tolerant and organized by that metric. So yeah, there's definitely some features I'd like to add.
I like your kind of people can submit. I think that could even be really cool long term. People go to that page and like the favorited one is the Blue Mountain Star. I'm just making up whatever. So people can kind of be like, oh well, that's the one again. And then there's the additional comments of it grew really well, you don't have to have a green thumb to do it, or yeah, I think that's really cool.
Oh, that would be incredible. Yeah, I would love to do something like that. Yeah, I would need to learn a bit more to be able to do that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean that would be like more of an advanced, but that's definitely a good long-term goal. Yeah, I feel like the site it could grow in so many ways. Grow.
Yeah. So we just call that phase 2. That's what we call that part.
Oh yeah, phase 2. Yeah, I mean there's the sky's the limit. Yeah, There could be
Yeah, it's kind of
many
infinite.
more phases.
Yeah, it was great job. Very, very nice. I need that kind of help too. So look forward to future iterations.
Oh yeah, Guardian's
Okay.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't want to get me started on my bad green thumb. Okay, we need to move on and let's go look at Julliette's beautiful website. Whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Julliette Huynh. I graduated from Maryville University with a BFA in interactive design. I've always had a love for art and design, so I pursued a career that allowed me to be both creative and solve design problems. And also, I've always had an interest in coding and creating websites. And so after attending a Savvy Coders preview night, that's when I knew I wanted to learn more about web design, coding, and even learn more skills for the future. As someone who really wants to travel someday and also who loves to have their photo taken, my capstone idea was to create a fictional photography group that can travel to the client no matter where they are in the world. And the idea was actually derived from my experience with a photographer. So this happened when me and my sister were going through our senior year of high school, and we booked a photography session with a photographer. And I found out that driving to our destination was a little bit difficult, especially at 6 a.m. in the morning if we want to capture that golden hour lighting. And on top of that, we almost got lost trying to find our photographer. And so that made the overall experience just a little bit inconvenient. And so with that experience in mind, I decided to create a website that's meant for photogenic people or just anyone who wants to have their photos taken professionally with the convenience of the photographer traveling to them. And then this website will allow users to pick and choose from a selection of photo sessions, basically from individual portraits, wedding photos, and more. I've also used HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and 2 APIs. And I'm really excited to show you what I have for you today. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Now, I just wanted to make sure if you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. All right. My Zoom is a little bit funky right now. Okay. You can see my presentation, right? Cool.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So my capstone project is called The Wandering Photographer. Like I mentioned, it's a website that's meant for photogenic people with the convenience of the photographer traveling to them. And then I also mentioned that I use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and even added 2 APIs into the project. And I wanted to show you first my wireframes. So this is the wireframe for the website version. As you can see, it's made on Adobe XD, and as I'm scrolling through this front of the page, there is a big jumbotron with a photo, and then also a navigation bar with some buttons and even a space for the logo. And within this page as well, and for other pages in my website, I included a section header or for every single page, and this part gives a little bit of a background about the photography group. And as I scroll down, it displays a gallery of many different types of photos. And I also implemented a little book and appointment button here, and I planned for some information down here and even some social media links. And on the next page, this is essentially the sessions page. So I wanted to have a way for potential clients to see what kind of photo sessions that this particular group offers. So we have things like senior photography, individual baby maternity, business, and so on and so forth. And then this is the shopping cart page. I will actually talk a little bit more about that, but this is what I wanted it to look like, something very simple and not too compact, and yeah, easy to look at. And then this is the mobile wireframe. I wanted to make sure that the design is very similar to the website version, but instead have it really friendly for mobile view. And so as you can see here, the navigation bar changed to a hamburger button. And if I were to click this, it would turn into a little menu for all the navigation buttons that the user needs to see. And I also included the logo and even a shopping cart on the edge over here. And as I scroll down, instead of the photos being rows and rows of images, I wanted it to all stack together, and using CSS, that was what helped me be able to make that happen. And I will show that in just a moment. And I also did that for the sessions page with everything stacking on top of each other, and even the shopping cart. So before I actually show you the actual website, I wanted to talk about the design. Since I am someone who has a background in design, I thought, why not I talk to you about that for this presentation. So the color palette I chose, as you can see from the left side of my screen here, is very earthy, it's very warm, and it's very subtle. I didn't want something that was too flashy or too vibrant. That would be, that would kind of hurt someone's eyes, for example. And I chose a minimalistic with strong imagery, modern, open, sophisticated type of feel for this website as well. I also chose the font / typeface Montserrat, and that can be found on Google Fonts as well. It's free. And as part of my user research and the SWOT analysis of different photography sites, I found that a lot of photography sites are very image heavy, hence that's why it's called photography after all. And many sites nowadays are very modern, so I wanted to give that a modern feel too. And I also utilized a lot of free stock photos for my project. So I used Pexels and Unsplash, and it's all free images. There's no like license or anything. And it's available for anybody to use too. And I also wanted to show some of the logo iterations I've made for this project. And I ended up with this bottom row for my project because, again, I wanted to keep it minimalistic. I didn't want too much going on. And continuing with the design, here are some of my thumbnail sketches that I made for my project. As you can see, the wireframe sketches, and basically all the sketches are not very pretty. They're just meant to be really quick, get the idea down on paper as fast as possible, and yeah, iterate through them. In project planning, for this project, I use mainly Jira and a lot of paper lists. I'm a type of person to use paper a lot, especially when jotting down notes or even writing out lists. It's better for me, mainly because I have a better way of like memorizing the things I need to get done. And I would like the feeling of just crossing off something on paper. There's something about it. It's nice. And working with my team to stay organized and up to date with assignments while also implementing what I've learned into my website was part of the Agile and Scrum method that I practiced during this cohort. And I was also the Scrum Master during the second half of my cohort. And I check in with everyone every single day during our daily Scrum stand-up, and I even helped out with sprint planning as well. And it technically was not part of the whole Agile curriculum, but I wanted to also help my classmates with CSS whenever they needed it. Some challenges and obstacles, one being time management. And I won't get into detail of all the lists because that's a lot, but time management, I say that with quotes, is because I was juggling 3 jobs at once while going through this cohort. I had my internship, I had a bakery job, and I babysat. So that was a lot to do. And so a way for me to overcome that obstacle with time was talking to my managers at work and just communicating that with them like, hey, I need to have some time to do some homework and stuff like that. And so my managers at work were really kind, and they were like, yeah, sure, that's totally fine. And so I was able to have more time to work on my homework and also go through class and study too. And now I'll show you my website and code. So this is what the final product looks like with some minor setbacks because I accidentally broke one of my APIs a couple of days ago, but I will get into that in just a moment. So as you can see here, this is the full width of the website. It looks a little bit different from the original plan from my mockup from Adobe XD, but the overall layout is about the same. And so as you can see, there is the navigation bar. There's also the logo over here and the big Jumbotron image, and it's also scalable as well. Now, as I go through this, the gallery is about the same, but there's more pictures. And this is where I talk about my first API. And as you can see, you don't really notice that there's like a lot going on for the API, but it's actually kind of hidden. And that's because right after these two images right here is where the API starts to work. And all of these photos are from that API. And my API was from Pexels, and I could grab a bunch of pictures from the site and then add it into a gallery, and then I use that link from that gallery to put it into the API, and that's how it populates all of the images. Yep. And then at the very bottom of the footer, I included just a little bit of copy and even some links too, and also gave credit to Pexels because I gotta give credit, you know? And I also added a little back to the top button, and it kind of nicely glides up the page. It's not something that snaps. I'm not a big fan of websites that snap all the way up to the top. It just kind of disorients me. So I added a little scroll feature into my CSS to make that happen. In the next page, I ended up adding an about page called Meet the Team. I did this because figuratively speaking, if I were a client for commissioning from this photography group, I would want to know who's showing up at my doorstep. So I included a bunch of personas. They're not real people, so no personal information is going on here. And yeah, there's the CEO, the co-CEO, a graphic designer, a makeup artist, lighting expert, a videographer, and even a professional cuddle buddy, because why not? And then this is the services section. It looks a little bit different than my initial mockup. Instead of having the text over like the middle of the image, I decided that I wanted it to be at the bottom so that you can still see the image and not have the text like fight against the image. And then this is where my second API is. So I implemented a form using HTML, and then I hooked it up to a backend. And I actually had a little bit of help building the backend, but as I mentioned earlier, I broke it. So if I were to, I want to say I just pretended that I filled out this form and I submit it, it's gonna break. And that is something I really want to fix in the future. And so I'm gonna go on to the next page. And this is actually a part of that, that API too. And it may or may not populate the old information. Oh, it did. So originally, if someone were to book an appointment and they were curious, like, hey, am I gonna be next on this list, or is there other clients ahead of me? So I included that here, and instead of the information of like their address or the zip code and any other personal information showing up on this page, I filtered it so that it only shows like the name of the client and also what type of session that they asked for as well. So as you can see, like Lady Gaga wants to do an individual session with this photography group, just for funsies. And then my contact us page. This is very similar to the book an appointment API, only that instead of hooking it up to the back end, I ended up just linking it to FormSpree. So whenever anybody just fills out the information with their credentials, and they press submit, it will automatically send to my email, and then I can see like, oh, maybe they just sent me a hello message or something like that. And I did mention a shopping cart, and I went ahead and just put the page is not available. And I did that on purpose because I was thinking to myself like, well, not a lot of photography studios have a shopping cart on their page, like at least for like galleries or portfolio purposes. I've not seen that in a while, and also in my experience with a photographer, like I never saw a shopping cart page on her portfolio page. So whenever I had to buy like prints from her as well, like she linked me to a different page to buy all of my photo prints. And I also wanted to take a moment to show off the mobile view once this page cooperates with me. Thank you. All right, so as you can see, the mobile view, everything kind of stacks up on top of each other and everything wraps really nicely, and the logo even changes. And from my previous wireframe, I ended up changing how I wanted the navigation to look, because I felt that previously the navigation looked a little bit kind of squished with like 3 elements in it. So I decided just to keep it as 2 just to make it simple. And also if I were to click this hamburger menu, it populates everything to the left side of the page. And this is something I'm really proud of, using CSS and media queries to help me shrink my page and get it to where I want it to be. And even like the photos like wrap really nicely and they take up the whole space. And if you were to look at this link on your phone, it would look like this. It looks like that on my phone. And now I'll take a moment to show you a little bit of my code. So I wanted to mainly show off the CSS of the website because I'm particularly very proud of myself for being able to build out this website throughout the cohort. And as you notice, there's lines and lines and lines and many more lines of code. And it's about, I think, 870 something lines of CSS alone. And yeah, it was a lot of styling, but I can say that it was really fun to do. It's kind of like building like my own personal like puzzle. So I thought it was a nice little challenge to take on while going through this cohort. Move this over here now. And I wanted to start wrapping this up with the future state of things. So for sure, I'm going to be trying to fix a couple of bugs, especially that book and appointment page that keeps breaking. I also want to implement a shopping cart or something similar. I have not decided on what yet. And then I may consider changing the color palette. Still thinking about it. And then I also really want to add this project to my own art portfolio, since I'm really proud of being able to build the website and also like have a nice design to go with it as well. And for sure, I want to continue practicing web design. I found out through this cohort how much I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it when I was in college, but I stepped away from it for a while. And then when I got back into it, I was like, man, I really want to do this again. And then some final takeaways. Definitely coding is not easy, but it's not impossible. I learned a lot about myself through this cohort. I met really awesome people along the way. And I'm super proud of the fact that I challenged myself and made it through the cohort while also going through life as well, because a lot of things happen in life. And I want to end this by thanking you for listening, and feel free to connect with me via LinkedIn. And if you're curious on more of my design work, my art portfolio link is right here.
Great job, Julliette. It's a beautiful website.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Julliette?
For the sake of time, Julliette, I actually just sent you a message because I know that we're trying to get to Jeffrey. So I sent you a message, but great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so last but not least, we have one more fantastic website, and that is Jeff. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Let me just pull this up really quickly. Okay, and let me switch back and start sharing my screen. Okay, is everybody able to see my screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Excellent. So Lori just introduced me. I'm Jeff. And first and foremost, thank you all for being here tonight and for lending us your attention. It really means a lot. My website is called Grown at Home. But before we jump into my project, just let me give you a little bit of background on myself. There we go. My whole life, I've really been plugged in and just fascinated as computers and the internet have changed the world. Naturally, I pursued a career in IT, and eventually I became a technician. I was working for several family entertainment centers where I was repairing all of their arcade games and installing and administrating a small office and home office type infrastructure. I stepped away from IT for a few years, really to learn more about the world and more about myself. I did a service year with AmeriCorps. And then I came home and I worked as a medical assistant and a nurse's aide. At that time, I was pursuing a degree in nursing informatics because I thought that would be a career that would really combine my passions for IT and for helping others. I was actually attending nursing school pursuant that goal until the pandemic put a stop to that. So now I've reoriented and I'm focusing on IT and development a little more generally. I'm currently enrolled in a bachelor's program for software development. And of course, I'm also doing Savvy Coders Bootcamp. I decided to do the bootcamp in addition to the bachelor's degree, really to help me develop the skills that I need to jump into the job market right away. For my Savvy Coders capstone, I was inspired by some of my experiences while I was in AmeriCorps. One of the projects I worked on was building community gardens to mitigate food insecurity in the communities across the country where I was working. So I chose to build a platform that would allow gardeners to sell their homegrown produce and for consumers to purchase fresh food from their neighbors. So talked a little bit about me. Let's go into the planning phase behind my project. The first step of the planning process was to create a SWOT analysis, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I identified a rising demand for locally grown foods and the minimal capital investment that it takes to start a garden. Both of those are strengths for my project. Weaknesses, the number one weakness is, of course, community organizing. A platform is worthless if nobody uses it, if you don't have users. And so going out and getting people to join this platform is certainly going to be the biggest problem. However, everybody that I've reached out to has been overwhelmingly supportive and eager to get involved, so that was very reassuring. Additionally, I discovered several local restaurants that specialize in serving hyper-local foods. And so I was really excited that that's a potential opportunity for business partnerships in the future. On additional opportunities, many of my neighbors already have established gardens. So getting somebody to join a platform is a much lesser friction than asking somebody to build a garden and then join the platform. A threat that I identified for my project is certain regulations, specifically setback requirements for houses. In much of the nation, it is unlawful to have things like a shed or a trailer or even a garden in your front yard. So that could pose a potential threat. The next step was designing a user flow. And when I began planning my capstone project, I thought that the capstone would be a static site. I didn't realize that dynamic websites were going to be part of the curriculum. So with that in mind, my user flow was designed to funnel users directly to the contact page because I believed at the time that all the content of my website was going to have to be manually updated. So it was all about getting the user to that contact page to either provide their garden information for me to update the page. So yeah, this user flow was abandoned as soon as my instructors taught us how to make a single page application that was dynamic. The third step was our wireframe mockups. And when I was designing these, I wanted my site to be mobile first and completely responsive from day one. So, so all of the same content that's available on the desktop view is also available on this mobile view. However, you would need to scroll up in order to see it. So let's talk about a few challenges that I ran into along the way. Number one was a complete redesign of the website. Originally, the garden list on the left side here, that was going to contain a list of participating gardens, and it was supposed to be displayed on every single web page on the website. However, to implement the garden list in this way, it would have required significant changes to the state-driven architecture driving this website. So that would amount to lots of time spent under the hood, adding minimal, if any, value to the user experience. And so I decided not to do that. Instead, I decided to move the gardens list onto its own gardens page. And no sooner had I made that change that I realized it would be better to move the map to that gardens page as well. I was able to effectively navigate these significant changes and reworks by using the agile development skills that we learned during the boot camp. So agile is really flexible and iterative, and that was crucial. It was excellent for identifying what was working, what wasn't working, and it allowed me to rapidly change and improve my website based on the feedback I was receiving. During the boot camp, we constantly were practicing all of the various agile ceremonies. We were given the opportunity to volunteer for the roles of product owner and Scrum Master as well. At first, I was the product owner, and then later I volunteered as Scrum Master. Really being able to perform the agile ceremonies from multiple different roles, it really helped me build a lot of confidence and a deeper familiarity with the whole agile process. For homework and classwork, we were assigned to teams, and we used Jira to organize our teams and our sprints, backlogs, all those things. For my personal capstone, I chose to use a self-hosted Kanban board on my home server. I'd like to show that to you now. So this is what my Kanban board looks like. You'll notice there are lots of completed work units in my done column, nothing in the in progress column, because I did not want to touch this code or have any opportunity to break something before today's presentation. And I do have several different features that I'm looking forward to implementing after the presentation today. So now that I've talked about myself, the planning, and some various challenges and how I used Agile, let's finally take a look at the website that I've built. Again, my website is a platform for gardeners to sell their homegrown produce and for consumers to purchase fresh food from their neighbors. This is the home page. By default, the Eat tab is selected. It displays information that's most relevant to consumers, including a link to the gardens page where users can locate participating gardens near them. Clicking the Grow tab is going to change the background image as well as present a link for gardeners to register their gardens with my platform. And clicking the Learn tab, it currently displays information about the website as well as a link to my About Us page. All right, so now I'm going to navigate to my gardens page. And you can see I am using Leaflet for my map library. And each of these markers corresponds to a garden that's registered in my database. On the left side here, all those gardens are listed out. This page is querying my API server that I wrote and I'm hosting on Heroku, and my database is hosted on MongoDB. So let's add a garden to the database by navigating to the register garden page. So over here, we're just going to come up with, we'll just do a test church garden. It's open from 10 o'clock until 3 p.m. 1234 Main Street, that's fine for an example. And we'll say this is an Independence. Now, this is one thing I do want to change because it presented some confusion for my users when I was having my friends and family test this website. They didn't know how to get their latitude and longitude, and that's, of course, a significant friction to registering a website. So in the future, I would like to just require city, state, and zip in order to use an API to get that latitude and longitude instead. For the sake of this presentation, I have coordinates that are saved in a text document. So give me just one moment, and I'll copy and paste those in. There we go. All right. And now as soon as I hit submit, this should, oh, I lost my mouse there. I apologize. All right, a few technical difficulties, but the show must go on. So as soon as I click the submit button here, this should redirect me to my gardens page, and you'll see that there's a fourth marker added onto this map. That's the garden that we just registered, as well as over here on the in the list, that fourth garden is listed. When I closed out my presentation there, I lost my notes. So give me just one moment. I'm going to find my place again. There we are. Okay. So yeah, you can see the fourth marker. And now let's go ahead and proceed on my about page. There isn't a whole lot of information to display here, but I plan on adding a lot more content in the future. My final page is our contact us page. And this form is using Form Spree to, if someone sends in a request here using this form, it's going to send direct, Form Spree will send directly to my email box. And that's just much more convenient for me instead of trying to dig through my database or reinvent the wheel and program a solution by hand. So let me proceed back to my home page here. And again, I wanted my website to be mobile first from day one, completely responsive. So let me show you my, my mobile view here. I'm just going to drag it side by side. And I'm going to pull up my code as well. It's hiding over here. Okay, so this is what my mobile view looks like. And each page is completely responsive. And so I wanted to take a moment and show some of the code that I was most proud of. So this menu right here, this was one of the most rewarding moments for me that, you know, makes all the hard work and all the steep learning curve, makes it all worth it. We were shown how to implement this hamburger bar up here in the top right of my page, which you'll see when I click on it, it hides or unhides my navigation pane. I was inspired by that simple little functionality to make something more complex with the same tools. So I figured this out on my own, and it ended up being a fun challenge that required a perfect combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that is to create my home menu here. The code that I started with is this little snippet right here. And what this is saying is when this hamburger image is clicked, it's of course going to toggle whether or not my navigation pane is hidden or not. Now for my menu, I did not want to toggle hiding because this would mean if I clicked on the Eat tab when it was already selected, the entire element here would be hidden. And I didn't want that. That's not the functionality I was looking for. So instead, by reading the documentation for this class list method over here, I was able to determine that there are a couple other functions that I could use it for, specifically add and remove instead of toggle. The way that this is working is I'll highlight my Eat option here. When I click on this Eat tab right here, it's going to add a hidden, well, it's going to add hidden to the Grown and Learn tabs so that everything on those tabs is going to be hidden, and it's going to remove hidden from my Eat tab. This functionality was, again, programmed in JavaScript. It required CSS for all the styling, and HTML provides the structure for this to work. So let me proceed back to my presentation here. So let's talk a minute about what I learned and what sort of takeaways that I had here. Our instructor, Johan, he had many quotable moments, but this is one that really struck me while I was rereading my notes. That's have a backup branch and then break your code until it works. If I had internalized that from day one, I probably could have saved myself quite a bit of heartache. See, coding is all about really trying new solutions, and inevitably many of them won't work, but every attempt I found really contained a lesson that brought me closer to my goals. Before I was comfortable using Git, I was pushing all my changes directly to the main branch, and this was a mistake. However, it ended up being a positive learning experience that taught me a lot more about Git. And now that I'm using industry best practices with Git, I'm much more confident experimenting with my code in bold new ways that will inevitably break things until they work, of course. So I learned a lot about problem solving in this boot camp. Number one, ask more questions always from everybody, especially even about the little things. Often even asking simple questions can peel back another layer of complexity and show you something that you were looking right past. Additionally, my classmates helped a lot. I know Julliette was mentioned before. She really raised the bar for the whole cohort with her project, and she was able to give us, she was able to link us to a lot of very helpful resources. My second thing that I really learned was how to break things down, how to break problems down, dissolve large problems into several smaller problems. It's easy to intuit, but difficult to practice. And I got quite a bit of practice with that. And lastly is test early, test often. User feedback, not just for testing bugs, but I was sending my website to all my friends, all my family, and I got immediate feedback from all their unique perspectives. And it was just incredibly helpful. Things like difficulty navigating the website, confusion with filling out forms. Simply put, my website would not be what it is without the many suggestions and improvements that I implemented, but I did not think of. So where are we now? I'm using Netlify to host my front end, Heroku to host my back end, my API server, and then MongoDB to host my database. I'm using Leaflet.js on my Gardens page for my map. And of course, I've added the functionality to the website where users can register their own gardens on that form, and that's going to send a post request to my API server, which is going to update the database. In the future, again, I mentioned I had several features I'm really looking forward to implementing. Number one is adding more functionality to the map. Currently, if you click on one of the markers, it doesn't do anything. If you click on one of the garden lists or gardens in the list on the side of that page, it doesn't do anything. I want to create profile pages for each garden. And after that comes user accounts, because that I was advised not to try and tackle that before a presentation, because that can be a very difficult problem to solve. But I'm really looking forward to jumping in and trying to tackle that along with garden profiles. And of course, bug fixes. There are several bugs that I'm aware of on my page right now. And well, I've been loving coding. And so if there's one thing for certain, it's that I have a lot of bugs in my future. And what's next for me? I'm really hoping to get a job that will have my hands on code pretty much every single day. I love what I've been learning, and I'm just inspired to learn more. Following this boot camp, I'm excited to volunteer with Code for America, specifically the Code for Kansas City Brigade as part of Code for America. And so again, thank you all for being here, for your attention. If you have any questions at all, feel free to shout them out at me in just a minute, or you can reach out to me through email, phone. I'm on LinkedIn, I have a GitHub. Any way that you can get a hold of me, please don't hesitate to do so. Thank you.
Great job. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jeff?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that's there's some nice stuff happening there. And when you are creative, and coding, I believe, is really an expression of creativity, you are constantly trying to figure out how to fix and or break things so you can fix them. So enjoy your journey. It's just beginning, it sounds like.
Thank you.
Lori, I think you were right. This is just superb. Amazing presentations. I've sat through a lot of these. I was very, very impressed. I also seems like Julliette, you've offered a lot. So I know we didn't get to talk much about yours, but it seems like you were a constant all-star helping everybody. So very, very well done. Very impressed. You can tell you're all really passionate. Kelby, I could tell you were had such a great mission, and I'm sure you're going to do a lot of great things. Buck, you as well. So everybody just really much applaud you all for all your hard work. I know it's not easy. So congrats for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, we thank you for being here too, Andrea. For
Of
sure.
course.
Jeff, congratulations. I sent you a message.
I see that,
And
thank you very much.
yeah, we ran over a little bit of time, but that's what happens when I start timing people on Monday, and then we get to Tuesday, Wednesday, and by Thursday, we have a little more content. The content grows, which is amazing. So I really appreciate all of you being here to see the great capstone presentations that they've put together. It means a lot to them. It means a lot to me for your partnership, and for some of you, definitely friendship as well. Proud of all of them, and so happy that they got to show off to you a little bit tonight. So if there's nothing else, we can adjourn for the evening, because I think I have another orientation to go to for a brand new cohort that's starting on Monday. So,
Crazy.
good
Awesome.
job,
Well,
guys.
good job,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
That was good.
Congratulations.
Thanks everyone
to
for being
Lori.
here.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks,
Thank
Lori,
you.
for all your coordination. I know it's a lot, so
Yep.
we love you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Lori.
I love
Thank
you
you,
all too.
Lori.
All right.
Congratulations.
Everybody
guys.
can
Bye.
take a deep breath now. All right. I'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. See you. I gotta go. Good
See you.
job.